Welcome, everybody, to Moonlighting Montana. This week, special week for y'all. First of all, I got these mics. We're going to have to do some fiddling with them because I heard from whoever's on the other end, who you will see later in a bit, that they're just not making the sound that I want them to. But maybe you guys can hear it once the recording comes through. Who knows? But at the end of the day, just trying to up the quality a little bit and continuing to do that the most I can. It could be the conferencing thing that I use, but that's a lot of talk. This week was the last week before we get into playoffs, so some very sad teams went home. They could be happy to. I'm going to take Victor, for example. Going out on a win, it's hard to end your career on a win. Even really great teams don't always do that. So I always tip my hat to teams that are finishing a season and guys who finished throughout the season. So a couple of teams that ended their season, a couple of teams that are really preparing. So without further ado, let me get into some scores from this last week. In Class AA football, we had an interesting score going on in Glacier. Glacier wins 84-15 against Hellgate. Now, at what point do we start talking about coaching stuff there? And I don't want to call any coaches out, but was there a point trying to be proved? Was there some drama off the field that I didn't know about? Because that's taking it to a whole nother level. You don't typically see 84 points scored on an 11-man field. So I'm just curious of what happened down there in Glacier. If anybody has any more info on that, relay it my way. I would like to know. Then Flathead loses to Big Sky 20-53. Belgrade loses the senior 22-25. Gallatin wins 42-14 versus Skyview. CMR loses 10-24. They were playing Great Falls. Helena High. Now this was the game everyone was looking forward to. If you follow Moonlighting Montana on Instagram, I was at the game taking photos of it. It was absolutely packed on a rainy, cold day. People were excited to see it. People were excited to see the Talon Marshes on defense and Manu Mello, who Capital did a really good job handling. They're excited to see them play, but obviously Capital just stifles them, and it's a low-scoring affair, 3-13. Butte loses 21-49 against Sentinel. Billings West versus Bozeman. Bozeman wins 21-13. Now, not a good look for Butte going into the playoffs, but a really good look for Sentinel going into the playoffs because people had some question marks on them. Obviously, I'd still say the ball's in the court of the Helena teams. Both those teams are super strong going into the playoffs. And sometimes some coaches, depending on what the seeding's going to look like or how their team is, might prefer a loss going into those playoffs because you don't really know how your guys are going to respond. If you roll into the playoffs without taking a loss, sometimes guys get complacent. But again, maybe they don't. It's kind of up to the team. Just a side note there. In Class A, we had Laurel winning 3-0 versus Havre. Now, I don't know a whole lot about Havre. I think they must be pretty decent. That's a very low-scoring game. I wonder if it was super cold in eastern Montana and they didn't score a lot of points, but that's super low-scoring. And Laurel's a pretty good football team like we talked last week. I think Havre is pretty good. I wish I knew their matchup. I think I heard it going into the playoffs. But then we had Lockwood beating Park 50-0. We have Frenchtown winning 49-7 against East Helena. Sydney 22, Glendive 28, Fergus 36, Miles City 0, Corvallis 42, Libby 52. That's a closer game than I thought it would be, if I'm being honest. Libby's a really good football team. Hamilton 23, Sea Falls 7. That was the game that everyone was looking at in Class A for sure. Sea Falls is really solid, and I think it was tied at the end of the first half. It just kind of fell apart for Sea Falls after that. Butte Central loses 21-34 against Stevi. Hardin 0, Billings Central 62, an absolute just beat down. Ronan 0, Dillon 42, Whitefish 28, Polson 34. That was another game. I shouldn't even say Hamilton Sea Falls. Those are a couple of good games. Whitefish versus Polson. Obviously, Polson goes into the playoffs undefeated, and the team really to look out for in Class A. I think people are still counting them out, even though they can't get beat. But they are really good, and they have a really good quarterback and that's the position that's going to win you football games. Now, Class B, Anaconda 0, Chief Falls 42. We have Fairfield versus Malta. Malta really smacked Fairfield, and I didn't think anyone expected it. I think both those teams are really good teams, but Malta 48, Fairfield 20. We have Shepherd 47, Roundup 0, Manhattan 34, Big Timber 12. Big Timber, huge win against Townsend last week, and then they come out and lay an egg against Manhattan. But I'll tell you what, Manhattan's been beating good football teams, and they look good going into the postseason. So 3 Forks 6, Boulder 43, and I could be wrong here, so people correct me if you need to, but Manhattan, I believe, plays Big Fork out of the gate. B is a gauntlet because there's no buys in B. A and AA have buys. I think A actually has a couple of teams with buys, and so Class B, you just go in swinging playing teams. So, yeah, it's a gauntlet. 3 Forks 6, Boulder 43, Huntley 41, Red Lodge 7. Wow, Huntley's still winning by a lot. Florence 35, Loyola 12, Wolf Point 13, Glasgow 68, Whitehall 42, Columbus 0, Conrad 14, Cutbank 22, Baker 26, Colstrip 14, Eureka 0, Big Fork 39. What a statement win by Big Fork. Eureka, Garfield County was solid, and I think they still are solid, but Big Fork absolutely kills them. Big Fork only got tested a few times this year, but again, I think they're going to be in Class B, in my opinion, is the most well-balanced division. Best football being played. It just, in my opinion, feels like Class AA has, elite teams and then some really down in the dumps teams. Still, that happens with A, and it does happen with B too, but it just feels like there's more very strong teams in B. Class D, I didn't get a lot of scores for this one, and it could be the Ennis effect of what Ennis ended up doing. Ennis had a non-conference game going into their last game of the season and just elected to not play it and focus on the team ahead, which is a smart decision in my opinion by Coach Speck, saving those boys from any more injuries or getting beat up or losing someone that's crucial to their postseason run. So a couple of teams might not have played, but Jordan 33, Bainville 34, Barn Burner, Reed Point 0, Bridger 53, North Star 41, Power 40, another Barn Burner, Heartbeat 30, Sunburst 42, Victor 48, Valley 22. I just want to shout out a couple of my Victor boys who watch me. Coached a couple of them down in Victor, Roan Jackson, Kale Albert, Landon Nuttall, and Jordan Freedy McLean, who just ended their career over there in Victor, ended it on a win. And I just want to shout out you guys because I know you watch the show, and I'm proud of you guys for doing it, sticking with it, and doing what you're doing. West Yellowstone 22, Hot Springs 65, Tri-City 13, Centerville 19, Flint 54, Sims 8, Lambert 50, Savage 39, Knoxon 54, Twin Bridges 14, Superior 0, Mission 58, and we will get some more insight on this shortly. Shoto 38, Sealy 0, Troy 8, Charlo 53, Cascade 52, Sheridan 26, Broadview 59, Custer 26, and like I said, Ennis did not play Forsyth, the Dogies. And without any further ado, our guest this week is none other than a fellow dog, hence why I'm wearing the Montana Western Bulldog sweater. He not only coaches, and I think I've talked about this a little bit, maybe, and just a little bit touched on it, but I didn't just wake up one day with the idea to start this channel and just go on talking about high school sports. I was actually inspired by the man that I'm talking with today. That's why I had to have him on. I was thinking about it because he is what drove me to want to do it. He's been doing it for a while. He's coaching in Superior, so he's a man of many hats and many skills, many facets. I've actually watched him marry two people, so he's got more skills than you could think about. But without any further ado, ladies and gentlemen, Jake McElroy.
Good evening, Montana. What's up?
That's him. He's here. He's ready to roll. Jake the Snake McElroy. How are you, brother?
Good. How are you doing?
Oh, just great. Just going on over some Montana sports. Super excited to have you on here because last time I checked, You are 85.5% with your guesses. Is that correct?
That is correct. And looking at this week, I missed 4 games, I believe. I got to double check on that, but I missed 4 games. So the percentage might go up. It might go to 85.6, but we'll take 85.5.
Okay.
I don't think I think that's pretty good.
That's elite. What are you talking about, dude? That's elite. If I were to
Yeah.
pick, I mean, first of all, anyone you to even have the knowledge of who you're going to pick for all of these teams that we talk about is an elite skill in its own. But you watch a lot of football, clearly, correct? High school
Yep.
football.
Yes.
It shows. 85.5%, I think, is savant level. It's elite. And so, yeah, it's really good. But what I wanted to ask you about before we get into any of that is you're coaching Superior and you're coaching those boys. How long have you coached in Superior?
This is my 4th year. My first year there, I did junior high football, and then I helped out with the high school after practice for 30 minutes. And then that was actually the year Superior played in state against Fairview. And so I was able to be part of the team for the playoffs. And then the year after that, I got hired as a full-time assistant. So I just finished my 2nd year. This is my 3rd year full-time assistant coach for Superior.
Wonderful. Wonderful. And when you got down there, like we were talking earlier, they were a co-op with Alberton. Is it because you guys grew? Are you growing? Or it just so happens that the numbers worked out the way they did?
Well, from what I've heard, is they co-opted because of the basketball reasons. Superior didn't have enough athletes, so they co-opted. And then the last couple of years, Alberton just didn't have a lot of athletes compared to what Superior had, and so they ended the co-op last year. And Superior is growing. You know, we are going to Class B for other sports after this year. We're going to and football, but Superior is growing for sure. So we don't really need the co-op right now. You know, we got 20 boys out, so it's good. It's growing. It's heading in the right direction, which is good to see.
Right, right, and that is even another question that raises in itself. I mean, you mentioned it was other sports and not football, but if you end up making a switch, kind of like the Big Forks of the world that are making a switch, I mean, how do you even go about that? I couldn't even imagine going from coaching kids from playing 8-man football, and obviously this is just purely speculation, but then going to an 11-man. Obviously, you understand it because you've played 11-man football, so maybe it's easier for you. But I guess coaching those kids and getting them prepared to play in the division up, is it the 8-man to 11-man, or is it just the talent in general when you switch a class?
I think there's talent all over in every class. I think the bigger picture is there's certain things you can do in 11-man that doesn't work in 8-man. There's certain things you can do in 8-man that doesn't work in 11-man. And a couple of the coaching staff we have actually coached in both 11-man and 8-man, and they've had sprees where they've had kids their freshman and sophomore year being 11-man, then their junior and senior year being 8-man. So I don't know. I think it's not as hard as you think from an outsider.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, football's football. I think techniques and stuff, same as just scheming wise, it's a little different, obviously, because you got 3 more players.
Right. Right. Yeah. You just kind of curious. Got all sorts of teams that are switching division. Obviously, Belgrade, where I am from originally, is going through still the growing pains of switching a division. And like you said, that's probably not anything to do with actually getting into a larger talent pool, but more or less a culture thing in Belgrade. But so last week, you guys were unbeaten going into the Mission game, correct? This might be a touchy subject, dude. I might just be
Yeah,
touching on something touchy.
it's a little touchy, but we're all right. You got to learn. You got to move on.
Oh,
That's why you
yeah.
play. Yeah, we were undefeated going into that game. Mission was undefeated. We knew at the beginning of the season that it was probably going to come down to that game with Charlo also, who's going to win the conference. And it came down to the last game of the year in Mission, and went from 70 to 53 just like that. It was cold. It was rainy. It was a big game, and we just, we didn't really show up to what the circumstances were, and Mission put it to us.
Yeah.
58-0, running clock, you name it. I mean, they did everything in their power to win the conference, which was, it was good to see for Mission. I don't think they've won the conference since 2001. I saw they won the cross country state championship on Saturday next day, so it's kind of a big deal in Mission.
Yeah.
We'll see. It hurts and it sucks, but
Yeah.
that's football. And if you would have asked me on Wednesday if we would have lost 58-0, I would have said, no way, Jose. It was. I was expecting a shootout, but
Yeah. Yeah.
just not how. Oh,
Well, yeah, and I think there's all times coaches and athletes go into that one. There's games that everyone can remember where it's like just want to bury your head in the sand about halfway through. It's like I don't want to continue this. We wave the white flag, live to see another day. But kind of like I was saying with what happened with, and obviously different situation, but some of these teams that end up dropping a loss that would have been a really big game for them going into the playoffs, especially when you're undefeated, is sometimes it's a huge wake up call. And it's like, oh my gosh, we can be touched, and we can be touched hard because so that means we got to get ready to roll. And I think, once the ball gets rolling, there's that momentum. And what I will say about Mission is I actually watched a lot of tape on him because my man, Coach Murray, loves to revisit the Mission, the old days. I was watching film on those guys when he was coaching them. They were freshmen, and they were good when they were freshmen. They've been together a long time. The quarterback there has been unreal, and he's basically started since he's a freshman. He does a thing in Class C that I really haven't seen, which is a quarterback who can take a 2 to maybe 3 step drop and just zing a 7-yard pass every play, and it's really hard to stop. And I've just watched that ball roll. So it's not like what I'm saying is the team is very solid. And I think that you guys are solid too. And like I said, it's more of a wake up call rather than like telling you where you're at.
Yeah, I'd rather have a loss now, I guess, in the playoffs, and it could be the best thing in the world happen to some of those teams that lose that last week, because then, like you said, it's a little piece of humble pie in a way. You understand, and Mission is good. It's a big deal because now they get to host playoffs throughout. And if we keep winning, I mean, it's a lot shorter to go to Seattle than it is some of our games. I mean, that's just how Montana is, but that plays a factor when you got to travel 12 hours.
It's gonna start getting cold here soon. Yeah. But we'll have those boys prepared.
Yeah, and on the east there's no mountains, so if it's snowing and it's blowing wind, you're gonna be in a blizzard. So
Yeah. Well, I guess that kind of goes to what kind of what would you say your strength on offense is? Hopefully, it's not run and gun, throwing the ball 60 yards a play. Maybe there's some running game, some hard nosed football that you can really buckle down to once you get into that cold, uninhabitable weather in eastern Montana.
yeah, I like to think that the West is more of a spread offense, Eastern teams, and I think that we're balanced. Obviously, against Mission, we couldn't really do pass or run, but sometimes that happens. But I think we got a group of seniors and we got a group of guys that same thing like Mission. They've been playing for a long time, so I feel confident in whoever we play next. I personally think that there's a really good shot that Superior and Mission see each other again in the state title.
There we go.
I mean, the West has been in the state title 8 of the last 7 years in Class C, so there's a good shot, and it could happen. I mean, everything that we wanted is in front of us. We just gotta go do it on the road. But
right, yeah, exactly, and all the best luck to you guys there. Do you guys know who you play next?
yeah, we play Forsyth at home, 1:00 in Mineral County.
There we go. There we go. Lock it in. It's the Dogies.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, I'll let you sit on the coaching there for a second now to talk to you about how you became a celebrity, how you became the person everyone knows. of Good Morning Montana. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to link his Instagram in the video, of course, but he's selling merch. He's been doing this since I was in college, which was a long time ago. He's been doing this for a long time. What got you into picking? Well, and to be fair, you were a college student way before now. Now it's easy to follow football. Now it's super easy. I could watch a video on demand on NFHS of any team in the state that I wanted. It doesn't matter if they're in the absolute right next to Canada, right next to North Dakota, the smallest field in the state. They have NFHS cameras that I can tune into and I can watch and I can see these scores. You were doing it back when it was difficult to get these scores, to get the schedules for these games. What got you into it?
Well, I've always followed high school sports, even when I was in high school. I mean, football was life, I guess. And I friends playing high school sports. And then when I got to college, it was always kind of a joke at night. I was always doing this little radio voice, good evening. We got so and so and so and so. And a couple of my roommates at the time, I was living with Kessler Leonard, and he played at Great Falls High, and Tristan Clark, and he played at Deer Lodge. And then just like that, they were like, we got to go live. And so we went live one night, and that was history. And the next morning, I think we did a show. We did a Good Morning Montana show, and it kind of took off. My first video was actually like 10 minutes long. So it was really, really long. And then with football going on, I would do it after lifting on Fridays. We traveled to Rocky one time, and I did it on the field, actually. I did it on the field when Salsa was there at senior. So yeah, and then I kept following it. You just know football, and then after you're done playing it, you obviously are on the coaching side, and so you start to understand football more, and you start to understand teams across the state a lot more. But I will say, traditionally, Montana has a lot of the teams are roughly the same every single year. I feel like once in a while there's always a curveball thrown in there, but I feel like a lot of the teams are always successful.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of that culture, that kind of going back to that like culture of the trickle down effect of kids who are young seeing those teams above. But no, I love it. Well, my question is why? Listen, if people who don't know J-Mac, my man did have game on a basketball court. Okay, he did, and so I don't know if you've done any Good Morning Montana basketball, and it'd be hard to keep up with because there's a whole lot of games. But why haven't you? Why haven't you stepped into the basketball space?
So I did it once. I did it once when Good Morning Montana kind of was like people were kept watching it more and more and more. And I was like, man, basketball would be great. So I did basketball, but like you said, there is so many games. Every single there is just no way that I could keep up, and the fan base I think would be hard to keep up with too, because there'd be so much costumes and so many costumes every single show. I don't know how they'd be able to keep up with that. So I think football, Good Morning Montana, I gotta stay with that. After my brother and his friend showed me, they had a surprise, and it was the logo we have and the design, and I was like, "Oh, sign me up, let's go." Yeah,
Well, yeah, it's awesome. It's flipping awesome. You got merch, people buying out merch. And like I said, if any of these viewers who haven't seen his show on Instagram, you flipping have to. Because like he said, he's dressed up. He's rearing to go. Man, he's going to wake you up on a Montana morning. He's fired up. And it's flipping awesome. But, yeah, that is it's awesome to see that you've stuck with it all these years. And I mean, I don't even have Instagram. That's the thing is when the show inspired me to just dive into this a little more. And obviously that's exactly why I make no pics on my show. It's like, frick, I gotta show respect to the OG of the game here. But my wife was showing me, she's like, you gotta watch J-Mac. You gotta watch him this week. And people are sending me stuff on Instagram. They're like, have you seen this guy? Have you seen Good Morning Montana? And I was like, yeah, he's the inspiration for it. He's the reason it even started. So I thank you for that. And then I guess the really big important question that we do with all our coaches here is Jake McElroy. I'm not going to make you take any picks because we're going to save that for Good Morning Montana when you do your show for the next round of games here. But what we do with every coach on our show is we just ask them, who's the team to beat in each class? Class AA, Class A, Class B, and like we always do, we lump in 6-man and 8-man together, just Class C in general, because it's hard to keep up with all those little Class C schools that are 6-man. But who are the teams to beat? Who are the teams we're going to be seeing playing late 2 days before basketball starts?
Yeah, so Double A is always interesting to me because it seems like every single team makes playoffs in Double A.
Yeah.
No matter you can have a losing record and you're making playoffs, which
Yeah.
bothers but I get it. I did have Bozeman as a sleeper team in the beginning of the year, and I think that they could possibly sneak their way in there. But I will say right now, the team to beat is Helena Capital.
Yeah.
Now, with that being said, it is tough to beat a team twice, and Helena High has proven to beat Sentinel, and so did Capital. So I think those two will play each other again. And I'm still going to go with the Capital Brew Crew. They definitely need a new logo on their helmet, but they will win state this year. They will win state. That's what I'm going with. In Class
Okay.
A, there's been some shockers these last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Hamilton is definitely the team to beat. Lewistown, I think, is a sleeping team that could sneak in there because no one gives them credit. I've actually been reached out several times by some players there to give them credit, and I did, and they proved me that they deserve it.
Yeah.
I appreciate it, but I think Hamilton is the team to beat in A, and I think they'll win it. And in Class B, Big Fork is loaded. Absolutely loaded. They have an all O-line that looks like an NAI line. They're big. They got a lot of kids. They're going up to A, which helps with the numbers. But what Florence did was really eye-opening. The thing about Big Fork is they run the rock, so when it gets cold out, they can continue their offense. But I think a team that people don't really understand is Huntley, and I think Huntley has got a shot to sneak in there. It's gonna give. I'm gonna say Big Fork stays on top, but after week 1, I might have to switch my pick to Huntley just because they are rolling teams.
Yeah. Have you watched them play? Can you shed some light on them? Because they're an anomaly to me.
Well, I have not seen them play in person, and I've not seen them on film, but I've got some insight, and I think they're back to their old school roots of doing some formations and stuff that haven't been seen in a while. And ball, which at the end of the day, the teams that run the ball,
Yep.
they always win games.
Yeah.
No,
Yep.
and I don't know. We'll see. I hope it's good to see them back because they kind of had some down years where they weren't really what they used to be traditionally, but it's good. And then Class C, this is the prediction. This is how it's going to go. This is going to be versus Superior in the state. That happened. It's West versus West, and that's just what I think. I think it's going to be a rematch, and it won't be 58-0, I hope, but I think really, really good shot of Mission and Superior playing in the title game, which would be really awesome.
Be great for that little area over there. And I don't know how the playoffs line up. It's really hard to get actually the schedule. They don't really release that until really late of how it's gonna end up. But that means one of you two are knocking off the Flint Creek, just the dog pound that's going on in Flint Creek. And listen, I think it's possible. I really do, because Mike Speck and the boys from Ennis, they ended up losing by 20. But Flint Creek's running, they're scoring touchdowns with 15, 30 seconds left to just get that score to make it look just a little bit better. And they did put a whoop down on Sims, which I thought was kind of a shocker. But one of those two teams is going to knock off Flint Creek. And that would be huge.
Well, and so on our side of the bracket, we got Culberson, you have Belt, you have Superior, and you have Flint Creek. So you got 4 of the top teams right there. On the other side, you have Joliet and Mission. So our side of the bracket, I'm not cutting about any other teams in the playoffs, making playoffs, and B and C is tough. A is tough.
Yeah.
We don't all piece of the pie at the end of the year, but Culbertson and Flint Creek and Belt all on one side with Superior. Those are 4 good teams. We're gonna see. We'll find out. But I don't know. I'm interested to see how it all plays out. Weather's gonna be a huge deal. What's gonna happen? Are we gonna have 90-degree weather next week? Or are we gonna have a snowball? You just don't know. It's
Yeah. True.
That's how it works.
Very true. Very true. Well, I wish you the best of luck, and I really appreciate you, the startup to what I'm doing here, coming on and having a conversation with me. Again, I'm going to link the Instagram a few times in this just so you guys go and check him out. Push anyone I can over there. Do you have any closing remarks other than go Superior at the end of this thing?
No, thanks for having me. I think it's awesome that you are doing, a little talk show about high school sports in Montana. I think that I hope all the states can do something like this, honestly. And I appreciate the fact that you don't do picks because that's for 5:30 Friday morning. It's the people. But I appreciate you having me on your show, and I wish you the best of luck where you're at.
Thank you.
Wish you were in Victor so I could have saw you when we beat Victor, but
come on, dude.
Maybe,
come on, you saw me enough after you beat Victor. You didn't have to see me anymore.
Maybe we'll see you down the road. Who knows?
Yeah, who knows? It's true. Who knows? Lots of people are coming all over the state, but J-Mac, still the man. I appreciate you a lot, brother, and good luck for the rest of the season. And everybody tune into his show, and good luck with your show. Continue the grind, brother.
Sounds good. I appreciate it.